I'm Sergeant Angie Tetley,
And I'm the best part of your day, Constable Brennan Martin.
and this is Called to Serve.
Let's go. Welcome to Constable Jenn Oliver. This has been a long time coming, and big, huge welcome to Checco. Also goes by Tigger, is that right?
Yes.
Because of all the energy?
Yes, he's
very
his
bouncy.
bounciness. Yes.
I can
He was on
see
top
that.
of the table, he was under the table. I know.
Well, Checco wants to talk too. It's not just about us, Ange. Well, Constable Jenn Oliver, thank you very much for coming out with us today. I just want to read off a little bit of an intro while we can here, while Checco keeps himself occupied.
Yes.
You started your career with the CPS in March 2008 in Class 176. You've been deployed to a few different districts, 3 district, 1 district. You've been in the Marine unit, back to 3 district, and now you are an official canine officer since 2017.
Yes.
Born and raised in Black Diamond. You enjoyed athletics as a kid, and you enjoyed playing soccer, volleyball, skiing, and apparently you were a competitive swimmer as well. That's awesome. Very interesting fact about you, that you wanted to be a meteorologist or a geologist. So I'm very interested to find out how we transition from that to this. With that being said,
I think, Checco is, as we can see, medium high strung. So he's going to have a bit of a nap while we finish the podcast. And maybe we'll ask him a few questions at the end and see what he thinks about you.
Okay.
That
What do
sound
you
good?
think,
All
Checco?
right. We're going to put Checco away and get into the podcast.
well, we seem to be missing somebody here, Ange, and I think it's Checco, also known as Tigger. It's totally obvious why. I also noticed that when Checco left, there was a little odor still lying around. Wasn't sure if it was a doggy toot or... I don't know. Just saying.
He
Just
almost
saying.
knocked the TV over. He was amazing. Amazing.
It was actually going to be the perfect total destruction because I just envisioned these cameras all going down, the TV going down, Dino the Never-Seen-O, steam coming out of his ears.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, thank you so much for bringing them. Thank you so much for being part of this today. So we're going to ram on forward. I also know that canine has been in your mindset for a super long time. And an interesting point is that you were somewhat motivated when you were younger to be a canine officer.
Yeah. Ended up seeing the movie Canine with Jim Belushi.
Yes.
Loved
Love
it.
that movie.
Anybody who's from the 80s or knows the 80s loves that movie, I think. And I just found it hilarious and awesome and loved the partnership that they had and kind of pointed me in the right direction for wanting to be in canine. So.
Little kid watching a comedy movie. And
I'm pretty
that's-
sure, I don't know if it was R-rated or
80 movies
PG
were
or
the
something.
best.
I don't
It's
know.
the best generation.
When we spoke before, I think one of the interesting parts of your story, which is very meaningful now for a lot of people who are considering policing, especially women, was the fact that you really struggled. Like, people look at you now, you're a machine, you're like super tough, you look awesome, you're very fit, very strong. So I think it would be very, like, people wouldn't believe that you actually struggled with the physical part of the application process. So
Yeah.
can you walk us through that and what that was like for you just in your application?
That was way back when the pair days. I don't know, a lot of our era kind of remember the pair days. And yeah, it took me 3 times to actually complete it. In
How tall are
a
you?
amount of
Can I
time.
ask how tall you
About
are?
5'6".
So 5'6", you're not a huge person.
No,
for sure.
and at that time I think the push pull was was it 80 or a little bit over 80
Something like
or
that.
something like that, and that was like more than half my body weight at the time, and so pushing and pulling that was a feat. So it was having to try and figure out the best way to get that done. It took me 3 tries, obviously, but finally I was able to accomplish it.
So what did you do? Like, how did you prepare? We get this question a lot from applicants. Like, how do I get better at the APREP? How do I pass the Leger? How do I push the pursuit restraint circuit or the PRC? So what did you do after being unsuccessful twice? What were the steps that you took to be successful?
Well, first I figured out what I was lacking and where I was lacking, and then I kind of tried to just focus on that by going to the gym, running more, weighted vest, all that kind of stuff to try and get my endurance and my strength up in order to be able to pass that in an actual, I guess, good time at
Yeah.
that time. So I think it was 4 minutes. At
Yeah,
that
for the
time.
pair, yeah.
So yeah, I tried to get there. I think I was really, really close. But I did finally actually pass out on the third time. So.
Yeah, and you had mentioned you were running like 8 kilometers every couple
Yeah,
of days.
every couple of days, just
Insane.
on days off. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, just doing that and weightlifting, going to the gym, talking to people that were kind of in that area, working out and stuff like that. What they would suggest I would do. I don't know if you guys remember Guy Deschamps.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he actually helped me a little bit more with the canine portion of it, but like somebody of that caliber was
Yeah.
bodybuilding or doing the more of the strength stuff to try and get my strength up to where it needed to be.
Yeah, like the reality of being a police officer, man or woman, is the fact that we're going to get into physical altercations, right? So generally women, don't have necessarily the muscle mass or whatever, but we have to put that effort in. And that includes, just like you say, the weightlifting, the
Yeah.
running, the training. We often tell people, play contact sports, whether it's rugby or some sort of martial art
Yeah.
or something like that, but you have to put the work in to get past the
Yeah.
physical barrier,
Yeah.
right? And it's doable,
Oh,
right?
it is
Like,
doable, yeah.
as soon as you put that work in, you make that commitment, you can totally get there. So
Yeah.
I think that's really inspiring, the fact that, even because a lot of women are like, oh man, like look at her, she's a cyborg, she's awesome. I'll never get there. But you were in the same position
Oh,
as a lot of
absolutely.
people. So
Yeah.
that's amazing story of perseverance and resilience for
You
sure.
just have to push past your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really, really difficult, I think, for a lot of people. And at first it is uncomfortable and people don't really like that kind of a feeling. But once you actually push past that, it is actually very rewarding to know, like, hey, I actually did that.
Totally amazing. So your big story, obviously, we want to talk a lot about canine, but we definitely want to acknowledge that the time that you had on patrol, like when you get on, you get that call, you start in classes, you've put that work and effort into your application, and you've started in recruit classes. You worked in 3 district, right, when you
Yes.
first started?
Yep.
So just give us a little summary of your time on patrol before you got into canine.
Okay.
And we'll get into that too.
When I first got onto the street, I was in 3 district. I was there for approximately 6 years. Then made the jump to downtown, which was a bit of an eye opener, a little bit different, still kind of on the south side of 3 districts. So I kind of knew what I was getting into, but so I was down there for 2 years. In 3 district, I ended up doing a couple summers on the bike team there. Downtown, I ended up being part of the Marine unit for a couple summers. So that was a lot of fun. It was just something different and get to actually interact with different kinds of people and stuff like that on the water and just water safety.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, huge. We have a big river in Calgary, obviously, we know from 2013, but a lot of people, I think, kind of underestimate the power of that river sometimes. So it was nice to actually a bit of a change to kind of go out and educate people on river safety and stuff like that as well.
I can only imagine 30 degrees, Canada Day. Those boats must have
Sun's
been
out, guns out.
suns out, guns out, and
Yeah.
those boats must have been bending because they were so full of beverages.
Yes.
and whatnot.
There were a few of those. There was also a lot of people that had a lot of fun with stuff. Like there was people dressed up as pirates. They had pirate flags. There was
love
people riding unicorns down the river.
Sweet.
There's
Oh,
more
yeah.
than one. Wow.
I've
Yeah.
seen the witches at Halloween, the witches on paddle boards. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't
Oh
seen
my
that.
gosh, so cool. So
Well, there's
cool.
also the paddleboard race I think they do every year and stuff like that as well. So, yeah,
Paddleboards.
what's that?
I love paddleboards.
Yeah, very very challenging on a river.
They are.
Oh my gosh.
They really are.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I really want to hear all about your canine application. I know from our previous conversations, Jen, that like you are the poster for resilience and perseverance. Canine is no easy task. That's why the exams and the physicals are as tough as they are. It's a very, very important role. But could you speak to your canine experience for the application process?
Yeah, I think it was very positive. I mean, there's only been, well, now there's 4, but at the time there had only been 2 female officers since 1960 that had been in the canine unit. So I ended up seeking out some advice and some help and just talking the ear off of Lil Rock, who was the last one that was in there. And she kind of pointed me in the right direction on kind of what to do, what to expect, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, it took me 3 tries to get into the canine unit. The physical was
Tell us about
challenging.
it. What does it take
Yeah.
physically to be a canine officer?
It's again, pushing through your comfort zone, I think, is probably one of the biggest things. Knowing that you can push past it and live
Yeah.
and survive. Like you're
Totally.
not gonna keel over. You know, you may want to throw up, but that is part of the course. It was very challenging being 5'6" and trying to get up and over fences with weighted vests. And just kind of pushing yourself to that limit where you're tasting pennies a lot of the time. It was really challenging.
That is when you know you're putting out 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I also know from speaking with you and just from my time on the job too, that anybody that's really interested in being a canine officer, they typically put in a bunch of quarry time. For the people that don't understand that term, can you explain that and what's involved in your volunteer hours?
Yeah, so all of our quarries, if you want to call them, or decoys, I guess some other people call them, is actually officers that want to be in the unit. And I had to put in over 300 hours of my own time to do that throughout my time up to getting into canine. I know some people have done up to 600 hours to get into the unit. It's a lot of time commitment, but if you spread it over, you know, a number of years, if you know that this is what you want to do from, you know, kind of the start of your career, it can be fairly easy to get those hours.
What did that entail being a quarry?
like
What did you have to do?
Yeah, so big. If you guys have ever seen those big suits, those bite suits, mainly it's to do with that kind of stuff. It's, you know, taking bites from the dogs, tracking, laying evidence down, hiding in compounds, in buildings, letting the dogs kind of learn where they are, and kind of just training certain aspects up to that. So it is a lot of hours, but it helps us train the dogs, and it also helps the quarries learn about what the dogs are all about and the behaviors of the dog. And so that kind of helps them, you know, getting into the unit and kind of knowing what to expect when it comes to working. Because obviously working dogs are a little bit different. They're not house pets, right? So
Well, I found out earlier when we first started, I got a little too close and right around, you know, that level. And
yeah, he was just curious.
very, very, like, you can tell that that's a working dog.
Yeah.
I know, Jen, that this is a bit of a dream come true for you. Can I ask, how long have you been in canine for now?
I've been in canine for 8 years.
So, like, do you still have that time and that moment where you wake up in the morning, you're coming to work, or you're in the locker room, or you're getting geared up, where you just have that big old smile on your face, like, I'm doing my thing?
Yeah, it comes a little bit easier now. At the beginning, it was a little bit of a shell shock, right? Like you're kind of throwing in there and just drinking from a fire hose, technically.
Yeah.
So you kind of, you know, you're learning how to be a handler, learning how to train a dog. Everything is new, different calls, like everything is completely different. So it took a little bit, but now I'm starting, now at 8 years, starting to get into the groove of things where it's kind of like, yeah, it's a fun job. It's a lot of fun. We get to do a lot
I
of
can
different
only
things.
imagine what it's like being on a truck, been there, but, you know, we're just providing cover when you guys are doing your work. But when you do a track for a serious offense and you find the offender, like that's got to be the best feeling in the world.
Because we're trained to watch our dog, right? And that's why we have the cover officers to watch our back as well. But we're professionals and experts at watching the behavior of our dogs. So to be able to watch our dogs, that was one of my favorite parts of training dogs, is watching them learn.
Yeah.
Because you know that they can do it, and you wish you could just say, if you just did this, you would do this, right? But they don't work that way. But watching them actually progressively like learn a certain task is really, really cool.
Hot tub time machine, you're going back 8 years, right? You get that phone call. Walk us through that phone call.
Yeah, that phone call actually was a message because
that's
I was on days off, and I came back to work and I was booking on a car and ready for shift, and I just turned on my phone and was looking through the bed. I had a message and I listened to it, and it was from, at the time, Sergeant Jim Gorley, who's now retired. But he gave me the message that I actually was successful in making it into canine, and it was a good day. It was
A good day.
Yeah. Had to call all my friends and family and let them know, because they knew how hard I was trying to get in and what I put into trying to get into the unit.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. So you talked about the fact that you had to spend, you know, over 300 hours as a quarry. So just getting bitten over and over again. I've seen what quarries look like. They have bite marks, they have bruises. Like it's a physically demanding and challenging just to be a quarry and get bitten over and over again. But there was also, again, the physical fitness, which, you know, getting into the CPS is like a minimum standard. But the physical requirements to get into canine and TAC is like exponentially more difficult.
Yes.
So you persevered and got through that to get on and be a CPS member. And obviously with the sort of in the back of your mind that you did want to join Canine eventually. And it took you again a few times to get on. So this was when you talked to Lil and all those sort of people to help you pass that physical fitness test, which is like way higher standard.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
It wasn't disheartening, I'd say. It was just kind of trying to figure out what would work, I guess. So even I went to Lindsay Gertzmar, who was one of our physical trainers here at CPS, and she's actually the canine portfolio. So she kind of looks after, she actually came out and did a bunch of tracks with us in her training class and kind of learned exactly what we do and what kind of physicality things we needed to perform in order to do our tasks. So she was able to kind of point me in the right direction on how to get up and over that wall in a good in a good way, not completely like flopping like a fish over top of it like I was doing. But yeah, it's just kind of trying to figure out exactly what to do.
She's an amazing teacher when it comes to that type of stuff.
And she's a small girl too.
I was just gonna say, a lot of
smaller than
technique, right? Like you
And it
can't
was.
just muscle your way up.
And that was the thing. She kind of showed me in her own way to kind of get up and over, and I ended up utilizing that. I know the one second time that I put in for canine, the last time I was trying to get up and over that fence, and there's not that big of a room to really kind of space to actually run. There was like a wall, and then like an actual physical wall, and then the wall you had to jump over, and it wasn't that big of a distance. But I remember like leaning up against the wall and then running at it as hard as I could, trying to get up and over. And there was people from the unit that were there that were, trying to cheer me on. And I think it was like the 7th try, I think I finally got up and over it. And it was just like applause from everywhere.
Amazing.
And it felt so good. However, I didn't pass because of the time limit. However, it was still like it was a win for me to be able to push through everything and get uncomfortable. So,
you know what every cop appreciates on the job is hard workers. So you continue to work, you continue to push because you have a goal in mind, and you actually had a plan. That's the thing that I find really interesting. And then, to actually be able to accomplish your goal, that just must have been overwhelmingly awesome.
Yeah.
So now you've on your 3rd attempt, you get on. So now you start training, right? Canine training. Tell us what canine training is like. Do you call it Hell Week too? Is there Hell Week?
Oh no, that's just TAC.
That's TAC. Okay.
Yeah, that's just TAC. Although we did do a couple of the weeks with TAC at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we did join in on some of their training. However, canine training is a little bit different. Obviously, it's training the dogs and you learning to be a handler, which again is drinking from a fire hose, because it's a completely from taking calls on the street to learning what the behavior of a dog is and, the way their ear twitches or the way their tail moves, their different behaviors. It's a completely different way of working, I guess, in the police service. So
did you have experience with dogs before you started with canine?
house dogs and stuff like
pets.
that, right? Like I enjoyed having dogs, but never actually trained them to this extent. So we have some good trainers at CPS as well.
So how long was your training?
It was approximately 6 months, and there was 4 of us going through training class. So there was a lot of reps that we had to do with the dogs, and because there were so many of us, it was we'd train something to do with the dog, go do a track, had to wait for that dog to actually kind of settle down, and like we put Checco back in the car, just let him have a rest and then bring him back out. So there was a lot of like wait time for that as well. There's 4 of us, so it did take us a little bit longer to finish training. But once we were done training, we were out on the street taking calls.
So now you're out on the street. Yeah. Now you're out there taking calls. For the non-law enforcement people that are listening to this, you get dressed up, you get all geared up for the day. Can you explain, like, what does a canine officer do from day to day, night to night?
Well, we train pretty much every day with our dogs is to kind of keep them up. If we don't keep that up, it's not like riding a bike. You kind of have to keep up with their training. They don't forget, but they just kind of get lazy. And just going to different calls, waiting for calls for service throughout the city, proactive policing, trying to dig up things, high crime areas, kind of circulate in there, see if we can find anybody lurking around or doing nefarious things. And we go all over the city, so it's kind of fun to be able not just to be stuck in one district. We can actually go.
So what kind of calls would you go on, like break and enters and?
Yeah, high risk calls mainly. So so break and enters. I guess if some robberies guy, does a convenience store robbery and takes off on foot, we get called to that. People with weapons,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, because the dog's just an extra tool that we have in our arsenal, right? He's a use of force tool,
Yeah.
so we have to, use him with caution. But we do get called to, where there's potential risk to the public or to other officers.
course.
We get called to, yeah.
I had one experience fresh on the job, 18 months, 3 years, something like that. Stolen vehicle, we call it 1086. The driver dumped the vehicle and was out on foot. It's late at night. Anyway, so there's a track going on. But as it turned out, the offender came back to the vehicle, and I don't know what happened, but somehow the dog got loose. And I saw the offender in the vehicle. The canine officer and we arrested that person. And as I was proning him up, he was like, loose dog. And I look up and I just see, boom, boom, boom,
Oh my
boom, and
gosh.
the dog's
Terrible.
coming at me, and I know I'm not moving. And went right in between my legs, and then I got lucky there. But it is quite a sight to see when you see this land shark, just like because it all slows down when you know bad stuff's about to happen to yourself.
Yeah.
But that is a canine experience I still tell to this day. Obviously, I tell it a bit more detail with a bit more specifics, but we need you guys, and it's so awesome to have you out there.
It's a huge support for patrol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those things like when you're running the street as a street sergeant, you're like, yes, this is a good call. I need canine, I need TAC, I need them right now.
Yeah.
So you guys are such a great support for patrol.
That's why we're in the support section, right?
Yeah.
To support patrol. So
Exactly. I want to talk about dogs.
Yes, go.
Yeah. So
She's been around a while, so she's had one or two.
can you
along
tell
the way.
us about the dogs that you've had,
Yep.
sort of the different types of dogs that we have with CPS and why we choose certain breeds, that sort of stuff?
Sure. So when I first started, I had a 1.5-year-old Dutch Shepherd. So anybody who doesn't know what that looks like, it's kind of like a brindle kind of colored dog. And his name was Paco. And I was with him for about 3.5 years, and he ended up having to be retired early. Just his teeth were not the greatest, and so we had to pull a lot of his teeth. That and he
Was
started.
that the one he had like, did you?
The caps.
Titanium?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
caps on his teeth.
So
Yeah,
scary.
I know he only has one
Dog
left
had a
now. Too.
grill.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dog
He
had a
can't
grill.
grip anything anymore. So he's retired, living at home with me now. But yeah, so Paco, we had to retire him early, unfortunately. And then I was partnered with Axel. He big, fluffy German Shepherd. Everybody loved Axel.
He was famous.
He was absolutely.
Yeah.
He was so photogenic too.
So cute and fluffy.
But yeah, I was partnered with him. He was previously partnered with another member, and then they ended up leaving the unit. So then I got partnered with him. So it was a little bit easier transition to kind of go to him because he was already kind of trained the way we wanted him to. So I didn't have to go right back down to the basics, which was kind of nice. And then obviously my third one is Checco, and he's a Belgian Malinois.
What kind of was Axel again?
He was a German Shepherd.
German
Yeah,
Shepherd.
purebred, but he was really long
You
haired.
mentioned how that dog Axel would sleep. Could you just speak to that?
Yeah, on his back.
Like
Yep.
paws in the air,
Paws
everything?
in the air, yeah.
I love it.
Spread eagle. Yeah, upside down. I don't know why he liked laying like that. But yeah, I'd go out to his kennel to go to work, and he'd be upside down looking at me.
That's how my dog
Yeah.
sleeps.
Yeah, it was just kind of different for
So
a
weird.
police dog, right? Especially at that size, he was massive. So
So how long generally would a police dog be on active duty?
it just depends on their health mainly and how they're performing. We usually get them between 1.5 to 2 years old, and they go up to 8 or 9 years old, just depending on how they're doing and just their health and how they're working and if the handler's still able to work them.
And we don't get we as in CPS, where do we get our dogs from?
We actually get them from Europe for the most part. We have a broker down in the States that we usually use, and they go over to Europe and they gather like 30, 40 dogs at a time from all over Europe, and they bring them back to the States, and then they kind of just spread them out throughout the States. So we go down at that time and go down and try and pick the best dogs that would work for us. And
How do you
bring
pick
back.
them? Like what sort of things are you looking for in a police dog?
With working dogs, they have to be high energy, right?
Yeah.
Because we were asking them to do a lot of different things and to keep up with everything. So high energy dogs, different drives, what their sociability is to other people. Obviously, Checco, I think he was just curious. I don't know what you have in your pocket.
I wasn't going to let him find out.
Okay. But I mean, you can pet Checco. There are
Yeah.
some dogs that you can't. And we try to socialize our dogs as much as possible so we can actually take them into busier areas. And
Do you take Checco home with you?
he does, yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask.
Okay.
You have a few dogs at home.
Yes.
But you also have Roxy.
I
Talk
do.
about Roxy and how they get along, because I would love to hear
Everybody
about
loves
that.
Roxy. I should have brought her. Roxy is my Chihuahua. She is a rescue, and she was the OG. So she's before any of them. So she's, I think, 11 years old now, I think, because she was a rescue. We're not 100% sure, but she rules the roost. Everybody is scared of her.
Like Checco's scared of her.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he went up to her, I think, the first time, sniffed her, and she growled at him, and that was it. I do actually have a picture somewhere of the first time Axel had met her, and it was absolutely hilarious. His face was just, his eyes were just wide and just had no clue what to do with this little thing. And yeah, she used to bite on Axel's fur and like grab him by the fur around his neck and like hang off, and he would just stand there and like stare at her. No idea what to do with her. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So you
she
have,
would be a police dog if she could. I
for
swear.
sure.
Yeah.
Police dog mentality.
Yeah, totally.
So you have Roxy, you have Paco's still home.
Yeah, at home, yeah.
And then Checco too.
Checco, yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you tell us what it's like? Like, how do you, because they're a working dog, they're a use of force tool, like do they sleep in your bed with you? Like, where do they sleep?
So for the most part, most of the handlers have them either an indoor outdoor at their house or an outdoor kind of a run. They don't come in our house.
Right.
They don't really interact with our family too much. And yeah, we're pretty much, they're not treated like a house pet at all. They pretty much go home. Their days off are their rest days because they are worked so hard during the work days that they kind of need that time to recoup. So they stay at home. We can take them for walks if they're sociable enough to take them for walks. We can do different training stuff with them if we can in our backyards. But other than that, they're pretty much, they go to work and they go home. That's about it. So
Yeah, amazing. I would like to talk about Ned's Wish.
Let's go.
Yeah. So tell us, you told us about Ned's Wish before, and I think it's
Yeah.
a really cool program. So tell us about what Ned's Wish is.
Ned's Wish was developed about 5 years ago. A retired RCMP member, Stacey Talbot, she ended up adopting a retired RCMP dog, Ned, and he ended up having some medical complications, and the bills were pretty expensive. She ended up having to put him down, unfortunately, or he ended up passing. So she ended up developing this program called Ned's Wish, which is a nonprofit organization, and it's pretty much a pension for police dogs. Because after they retire, they don't get anything, right? Like, we get a pension when we retire. They don't get anything. And as we all know, if you do have pets, vet bills are very expensive at the best of times. So especially with large medical things, a lot of the working dogs are worked hard. So they do have injuries. They do have, hips that go bad, all that kind of stuff. So it's, the bills can add up for people that are adopting them, whether it's a handler or somebody, another family. And so this organization actually helps ease that a little bit with being able to help pay for certain medical procedures or injuries or illnesses and all that kind of stuff. So recently, my husband and I bought an acreage, and we have now a rehoming facility on our property in correlation with Ned's Wish. We'll take in retired police dogs that are looking for rehoming with families. And we'll try and give them that decompression time after working. Because as you can see, going from this to being at home with a family and a couch,
That's different.
it's a little different, right?
Overwhelming, yeah.
And it's a lot for the dog, right? Like, they're always going to have that in them, that working part of them, but we'd like to be able to bring that down a little bit. And I was able to see that with Paco and with Axel as well. Axel took almost a year to kind of come down to the point where he wasn't, a bull in a china shop and knocking things off the counter.
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit of time to kind of come down off of that how many year high, I guess, being a working dog, right? So
High adrenaline all the time.
yeah,
right?
so this facility's kind of put in place to just kind of be able to ease that transition a little bit. We do have 2 retired police dogs there now, one from Vancouver and one RCMP dog. We're looking to rehome the Vancouver dog here shortly. And yeah, we'll see. It's just kind of what's needed. So it's not a revolving door, but it's whenever it's kind of
That
needed.
is so awesome.
Yeah.
If a person is interested in adopting, is there a process for that?
Oh yes, yeah. You'll have to contact the Ned's Wish itself and
All online. Check.
all online, yeah.
Google
and
it.
yeah,
Got
Google
it.
it. Yeah, pretty much.
Right on.
And it's all over Canada. Like you can take dogs from anywhere. Like they're getting a lot of traction now over, trying to a lot more publicity with it. So they've been able to kind of go to Eastern Canada. So there's municipal dogs, there's RCMP dogs, there's
Yeah.
military dogs, I think they're trying to look at CBSA, like those kind of dogs that are trying to get into to get a pension, technically, I guess. So
Yeah, amazing. So you've been in canine now for 8 years.
yes.
Do you have any favorite memories or calls or things that stand out for you? I know it's been a long time and there's probably so many things, but
Yeah, they can all meld together
Yeah.
a little bit. I wouldn't say that there's not like one specific call that was like the grand old be all call that was, the most amazing thing ever, but there have been a few calls that have kind of stuck in my memory. There's been a few what we call code 300s or shots fired or gun involved call that I've been on that have been being shot at by people.
that might stand out.
It stands out just
Yeah.
a little bit. And the fact that was once in my career, I'm like, wow, that was, at least I got to experience that once in my career being part of that call. And then it happened again, right? More recently. So being part of both of those calls is a little surreal, not going to lie. But those for sure would stand out. There's lots of other things. Like we do a lot of calls with our CMP as well. Like we were able to go out of the city a little bit too.
That must be great.
That's a lot of fun to kind of be able to work with them, a different agency. They do things a little bit differently. So it can be challenging at sometimes, but our communications with them have actually really improved over the last few years. So it's been really, really good to be able to work with those kind of agencies as well. Yeah.
You've had so many awesome experiences. You've been on the job long enough now. You actually have that time and distance from all the lessons that you've learned. Do you have any advice for any other girls out there or any other people in general that would be interested in a career in policing, but specifically for canine, or just any advice at all?
Just don't give up, right? Like
I like that.
push through it. It is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to make you out of your comfort zone, but know that you can do it. And that once you get through it, it's going to be the most satisfying thing ever. So yeah, just keep pushing. Yeah.
I love
never
that.
give
Even
up.
just watching you talk today, you can see that you still have that spark and that you love the job every day.
Yeah, amazing. Like I've known you for a while, and I've even just in the time that I've known you to, get over some really serious injuries, and just hearing your story about, the challenge getting on with the CPS and then the challenge to get into canine itself, like, and getting over the injuries that you've had as well. Like, I think you're an inspirational person, and we both really appreciate you being here and
thanks for
sharing your
having me.
story and telling us about canine and letting Checco come in. And thank you so much for being here, Jen. It was
thanks for having me.
awesome. Really appreciate it.
So, what's it like working with Constable Jenn Oliver? Talk to me, Goose.
Give us a little bit of dirt on the other dogs in the unit. What are they like? Thank you for being the goodest boy, Checco. You're the best.